There's a stretch of old forest in northern Maine where the pine trees grow so tall and dense that sunlight barely filters through during the day. Locals call it Black Hollow, a name whispered rather than spoken aloud. The land is ancient, predating the town, predating even the settlers who carved out the roads and cabins. Most people stay far from it after sundown, not because of wolves or bears, but because of something else, something far worse. They say a man once lived in those woods long before the area was mapped. He was a trapper, name lost to time, who went mad in isolation. His only companions were the wind and the trees. One night in the depths of winter, his cabin caught fire. By the time anyone reached it, it was reduced to ashes. Nothing remained except the echo of a strange, shrill whistle that carried out of the woods with every breeze. Since then, people say, if you hear the whistle, you must never follow it. You must lock your doors, cover your mirrors, and wait until dawn. But if you step into the trees to find the source, you never come out again. I never believed those stories until the night I lost my brother. We'd driven up from Boston that October, just as the leaves were turning and the air carried a chill. My brother Mark had found this remote cabin online, cheap, almost suspiciously cheap. He laughed it off, said the place was perfect for a digital detox. I wasn't convinced. I liked my Wi-Fi. I liked civilization. But Mark needed the break. He was unraveling. After our parents died in a car crash that summer, he started hearing things at night. Soft weeping, footsteps in the attic. He said the house felt wrong, so I went with him. I figured a week in nature would do us both good. The cabin sat at the edge of Black Hollow, though we didn't know it by that name then. No signs marked the area, just an old dirt path and a rusted gate that hung open like a broken jaw. The place itself was small but sturdy. One floor, 2 rooms, a stone fireplace. No cell service, no internet, just books and silence. The first few days were uneventful, peaceful even. We hiked, read old paperbacks, cooked over the fire. Mark smiled more than I'd seen in months. He slept through the night. But everything changed on the 4th evening. It started with a sound. We were sitting by the fire, sipping whiskey and watching the flames. That's when we heard it, soft and distant, like a tune carried on the wind. A whistle. 3 notes. Low, high, low. It lasted only a few seconds, but the moment it ended, the air felt colder. Still, did you hear that? Mark asked, brow furrowed. I nodded. Probably someone hiking, or a bird, but it didn't sound like a bird. It had a strange human quality to it, almost like someone trying to get your attention from far away. Mark went to the door and stepped out onto the porch. Mark, don't! He raised a hand to hush me, his eyes scanning the darkness. The trees stood like towering shadows, unmoving. The whistle came again, closer this time. 3 notes, low, high, low. Mark tilted his head, listening, and then without a word walked into the woods. Mark, I shouted, grabbing my flashlight. But by the time I reached the porch, he was gone. I ran after him, beam of light bouncing between trees, calling his name. But the forest swallowed sound. My voice felt small in that vast, suffocating dark. The whistle played again, off to my left now. It was moving, guiding me deeper. For 30 minutes, I chased shadows and sounds. Every time I thought I caught a glimpse of Mark, his jacket, his silhouette, it would vanish behind a tree. The air grew colder. My breath fogged in front of me. I stopped when I reached a clearing, my legs trembling from the cold and panic. That's when I saw her. At the edge of the clearing stood a woman in white. Her dress was old-fashioned, like something from the 1800s, stained with dirt and moss. Her hair was long and black, hanging wet over her face. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stood, barely visible in the flashlight's beam. Mark? I whispered. She raised one hand and pointed to the trees behind her, slowly, mechanically. I stepped back. Then she whistled. Low, high, low. I ran. Branches clawed at my face and arms as I bolted through the forest, breath burning in my lungs. I didn't care which direction I was going. I just needed to get out. Finally, after what felt like hours, I burst out of the woods and collapsed onto the gravel path. The cabin stood ahead, dim light flickering from the fireplace. I ran inside and locked the door. Mark didn't come back that night, or the next. I searched the woods for days, called for help. Police, dogs, helicopters. They found nothing, not even footprints. Eventually, they told me he must have gotten lost, wandered too far. But I knew better. I remember that woman and the sound she made. Low, high, low. I stayed at the cabin one last night, hoping, praying he might return. That was when I heard the knock. 3 soft raps on the front door. I froze. My phone was dead. I had no weapon, just a fire poker and a flashlight. I crept to the door, heart hammering in my chest. Another knock, then a whisper, muffled through the wood. "Let me in." It was Mark's voice. "Please, I'm cold." I put my hand on the knob but stopped. Something was wrong. His voice was too flat, too rehearsed, like someone trying to imitate him. "Say something only you'd know," I called out. Silence, then, "Remember the time we got lost in the corn maze?" My breath caught. That was real. We were 12. He cried and I held his hand until we found the exit. I reached for the lock. Then I heard it. Low, high, low. A whistle just beyond the door. I stepped back. "No," I said. "You're not him." The voice on the other side changed. Deeper, hungrier. "Let me in." I didn't sleep that night. I kept the fire going, poker in hand, until the first light of dawn spilled across the windows. When I opened the door in the morning, there were no footprints, just dead pine needles and silence. I left that morning, drove straight back to Boston. I never returned, but I hear the whistle sometimes, usually at night, just as I'm drifting off. Always the same 3 notes, low, high, low. They say the whistler chooses someone, follows them, waits until they're weak or grieving, or too curious for their own good. Then he lures them into the trees. Some say he takes their body. Others say he keeps their soul trapped forever in the forest. The woman in white? Maybe she's one of the taken, warning others. Or maybe she's part of the trick. All I know is this: when you hear the whistle, don't go looking for it, because you might not come back. And even if you do, you might not come back as yourself.